Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Students, today inshallah we will move on to the next chapter, that is human capital formation in India. Okay, chapter number 5. Now, when we talk about human capital, we as a human being have certain skills that makes us superior to other organism. So let's say the skill of interacting, the skill of conversation, and the skill of training, and the skill of training someone, and also the skill of get trained are some of the unique characteristics that makes human being different from others, or that makes the human being superior to other organism. Okay, so now this is what we study under the idea of human capital formation in India. So in simple terms, I can say, if you have a piece of land and on that if you have a factory, so this is a capital, correct? But what kind of capital is this? This is a kind of physical capital. But on the other hand, if you have a student, so that student in the future can be a doctor, he can be an engineer. So what kind of capital is this? It is a kind of capital, but it is not a tangible, and it's not a capital which is tangible, and it is not something which you can measure. Okay, but it is a capital. Okay, so this capital is called as human capital. Okay, so this is the basic difference between the human capital and a physical capital. Okay, we will understand more difference between this human capital and physical capital as we move ahead. Okay, but the primary thing that we study under this concept is two elements, that is basically health and education. Okay, so there are the primary ingredients. These are the primary ingredients which help an individual to become a strong human being. So a person who is educated or literate would have a better standard of living and better income level as compared to uneducated person and as compared to illiterate person. And similarly, he will be more responsible for the better economic growth of the nation. So now coming to education, what are the benefits of education? So you all know this education definitely stimulates innovation, then it stimulates idea, brings in social understanding, then helps in making better choices and helps in judgment, then it provides knowledge to understand the change in the society, and it ultimately helps in the development of the nation. So the nation which have higher education standard would be on the higher level of development as compared to the nation where there is average education level or literacy level is low. So this is how we correlate education with the developmental standards. Okay, so now there are 4 parameters that ultimately affects the production function, that is the human capital, physical capital, then the labor hour, then the technology. So when we talk about technology takes into account knowledge of the natural resources and the social infrastructure. Okay, so based on this we will determine the GDP of the nation. Okay, so the most important thing about human capital is its depreciation, or it depreciates with age. Okay, so with the aging, okay, so I told you the important thing about human capital is it depreciates with aging. So with aging we have the human capital that is depreciating. So let's talk about some of the nation. Let's say Japan. Okay, we can say that there is a sharp increase in the elderly population in Japan. So when we talk about the population parameter, we have male and female on the one side, and there is a very high population under younger age, okay, under younger age group. And as the person gets older, the population size increases, but that's the general population parameter. But in certain cases, what happens is the older age curve is very higher as compared to the younger population. So the number of new entrants or new birth are less as compared to the people in the aging population. So as in this case, so when there is higher when you have higher rate of aging population, this will result in depreciation of human capital, and ultimately it will affect the economy of the country. Okay, so now we'll talk about the physical capital and human capital as and its differences. Now you all know physical capital, as I say, it is totally mobile. Okay, that means it can see, for example, you can have a factory in India, you can have it in Japan, Canada, anywhere across the world. But when it comes to human capital, it is restricted by nationality, it is restricted by culture, it is restricted with the movement of people. Okay, so physical capital, when I say, it is tangible, correct, it can be seen, it can be measured. But human capital, on the other hand, it is intangible. Basically, it lies in the body and mind of a person, correct. So physical capital formation can be built by input, correct, it can be built by inputs. On the other hand, human capital formation requires conscious policy formation. Okay, now we will see the source of human capital. So what are the sources of human capital? Education, health, on-the-job training, migration, information. So all these are the sources of human capital. So investment in education is considered as one of the main source of human capital. Okay, so there are several other sources as well, as I've told you, that is investment in health, on-the-job training, migration, and information. Okay, all these are the sources of human capital formation. So now you all see, why do parents spend money on education? See, spending on education by individual is similar to spending on capital, or it is same like spending on capital goods by companies with the objective of increasing future profit over a period of time. Okay, same like the company spends capital goods. Okay, it spends on capital goods with the objective of increasing future profit over a period of time. Same like this, when you invest in education with the objective, the objective is to increase their future income. So when a parent is spending money on the education of the person, the main intention or the objective is to increase the future income. So like education, this health is also considered as an important input for the development of a nation, as much as it is important for the development of an individual. See, who can work better, a sick person or a person with sound health? See, a sick laborer without access to medical facilities is compelled abstain from work, as there is a loss of productivity. Hence, expenditure on health is also important, and it is also a very important source of human capital formation. So this preventive medicine, such as vaccination, then social medicine, spread of health, social medicine, and also providing clean drinking water and good sanitation are the various form of health expenditures. So this health expenditure directly increases the supply of healthy labor force, okay, and thus it is source of human capital formation. Okay, so when you spend on health, it directly increases the supply, it increases the labor force, the health, it increases the healthy labor force, and thus it is also an important source of human capital formation. See, the firms spend on giving on the job training to their workers. Okay, so it may take different forms. The workers may be trained in the firm itself under the supervision of a skilled worker. Okay, and the worker may be sent off campus training. In both these cases, firm incurs some expenses, isn't it? When the firm is giving training to the workers, it is incurring some expenses. So firms will thus insist that the worker should work for a specific period of time after they are on the job training. Okay, so during which it can recover the benefit of the enhanced productivity owing to the training. Owing to the training. So expenditure regarding on the job training is a source of human capital formation, as the return of such expenditure in the form of enhanced labor productivity is more than the cost of it. And one more thing is migrate. Okay, migration. So people migrate in search of job that fetches them higher salary than that they may get in their native places. Correct. People migrate from India to so many countries in search of jobs which will give them more salary. You all know in India, people are unpaid, isn't it? So they move or they migrate to other countries. So unemployment is the reason for the rural urban migration in India. So this technically qualified persons like engineers, doctors, they migrate to other countries because of the higher salary that they get in such countries. Okay, so migration in both these cases, that is rural urban migration and also migrating from one country to another country, involves cost of transportation, then high cost of living in the migrated place, then it involves the causes, isn't it? So expenditure on migration is also a source of human capital formation. Okay, now people spend, next is information. So people spend to acquire information related to labor market and other markets like education and health. See, for example, people want to know the level of salaries associated with various type of jobs, whether the education institution provide the right type of employable skills and at what cost. Okay, so this information is necessary to make decisions regarding investment in human capital as well as for efficient utilization of acquired human capital stock. So expenditure incurred for acquiring information related to the labor market and other market is also a source of human capital formation. So what did I say? Expenditure incurred for acquiring information. So when you spend money for acquiring information related to labor market or any other market is also a source of human capital formation. Okay. Okay, now we will see human capital and economic growth. So you all know who contribute more to national income, a worker in a factory or a software professional. We know that the labor skill of an educated person is more than that of an uneducated person, correct? And the education person gets more salary compared to the uneducated person. So when I say economic growth, it means the increase in real national income of the country. Correct. So naturally, the contribution of educated person to economic growth is more than that of illiterate person. And if a healthy person could provide uninterrupted labor supply for a long period of time, then health is also an important factor for economic growth. Correct? If a healthy person, if he can provide uninterrupted labor services for a long period of time, then health is also considered as one of the important factor of economic growth. So thus this both economic this both, that is education and health, along with many other factors like, as I've told you, that is the on the job training, then job market, migration, increase in an individuals that is on the job training, migration, information, all this increases individuals income generating capacity. Okay, so this enhances productivity of human being or human capital, contributes substantially not only towards increasing labor productivity but also stimulates innovation and it creates ability to absorb new technology. So education provides knowledge to understand changes in society and scientific advancement, okay, and thus it facilitates invention and innovation. So similarly, the availability of education labor or educated labor force facilitates adaptation of new technology. But you cannot say that increase in human capital causes economic growth. It's not true, because it may be because of measurement problems, such as educated measure or education measured in terms of year of schooling, then teacher people ratio and enrollment ratio may not reflect the quality of the education. Correct? Again, this health service measured in monetary terms like life expectancy and mortality rate may not reflect the true health status of the people in the country. So using the indicators mentioned above, an analysis of providing or any analysis of improvement in education and health sector and growth in the real per capita income in both the developed and developing countries shows that there is convergence in the measures of human capital but no sign of convergence of per capita real income. So in other words, the human capital growth in developing country has been faster, but the growth of per capita real I have told you the human capital growth in developing country has been faster, but the growth of per capita real income has not been that fast. Okay, so there are reasons to believe that the causality between this human capital and economic growth flows in either direction. Okay, that is higher income causes building of higher level of human capital and vice versa. This is higher level of human capital causes growth of income. Okay, so India recognized the importance of human capital in economic growth, and the 7th 5-year plan says human resource development that has necessarily to be assigned as a key role in any developmental or any development strategy, particularly in a country with a large population. Okay, so this training and education on sound lines, a large population can itself become an asset if it is educated. Correct? Okay. So I hope this much is clear. See, there is a table which is given in page number 89 of your textbook. Okay, when you see that, you can see there are few sectors given there. Okay, you can see there are few sectors which is given. Okay, and you can see that these sectors have grown simultaneously. Okay, growth in each sector probably has reinforced the growth of every other sector, correct? So, two independent report on the Indian economy in recent times have identified that the India would grow faster due to its strength in human capital formation. So if you can see this, so it is told that a German bank in its report on global growth census, which is published on 1/7/2005, identified that India will emerge as one among four major growth centers in the world by the year 2020. Can you all see? It further states that our imperial investigation supports the view that human capital is the most important factor of production in today's economies. Okay. Okay. So I hope you can see the table. Okay, it's given in 89, page number 89. Okay. And one more thing here, the World Bank in its recent report, it has stated that India and the knowledge economy, that is a report, the name of that report is India and the knowledge economy, okay, leveraging strength and opportunities, states that India should make a transit to the knowledge economy, and if it uses its knowledge as much as Iran does, Ireland does, okay, then the per capita income of India will increase from a little over $1,000 in 2002 to $3,000 in 2020. So it further states that the Indian economy has all the key ingredients for making this transition, okay, such as a critical mass of skilled workers, a well-functioning democracy, and a diversified science and technological infrastructure. So thus, these two reports point out that the fact that further human capital formation in India will move its economy to a higher growth level. Okay, I hope this much is clear. Inshallah, in our next class, let's talk about human capital and human development. Okay, if you have any doubt, please do contact me. Jazakallah.